Welcome back to Afternoon Live. Our next guest went from growing up in poverty in Tanzania to becoming one of the highest ranking women of color at IBM. Her book shares her incredible story and advice for success. We welcome the author of Show Your Worth, 8 Intentional Strategies for Women to Emerge as Leaders at Work, Shelmina Abji. How are you, Shelmina?
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me, Carrie.
You're very welcome. You have such a remarkable life. It was so interesting to read about your upbringing in Tanzania. Can you take us back to your early days?
Yeah. So, Carrie, I grew up in humble beginnings and initially went to school to get good grades just to please my mom. And as I was growing up, watching my mom struggle to raise us 4 siblings, cooking for others, we were selling food on the street. As a young child in middle school, I figured if I obtained a college degree, our family would never have to be poor again. And that why was my driving force, even though there was no education past 10th grade in the town in which I grew up. No one in my family had been to college. We didn't have any disposable income. Families like us would not qualify for student loans. But the why was just so strong that things fell into place, and I did obtain a college degree, which lifted us out of poverty.
And that must have been so hard for you to leave your family at the age of 15, but you had that inner drive.
It was hard, and it was hard because we didn't own a phone. And so there was no way to really communicate with my parents when I was gone. And yes, it was very hard, but my drive, my why was so strong and it was so intense that I was willing to put up with whatever it took.
Yes, and I'm sure you had to put up with a lot as a single mother in the tech industry. What were some of the obstacles you faced when you got to the U.S. and you were in this industry?
So my first obstacle, so I came to the U.S. as a foreign student. And when I graduated, so I went to a small school in Wisconsin. No one comes there to interview students. And so we went to a conference and I handed out over 300 resumes, Carrie. No one wanted to talk to me, even though I was on a dean's list and I was working 35 to 40 hours a week in addition to carrying a full computer science workload. The reason they didn't want to talk to me is because I didn't have the right visa status. I was on a 1-year practical training visa, and they were looking for people that had the right visa status. So that was the first obstacle. But on the last day, a technology startup company offered me a job, and the $27,000 that they offered me was more money than my parents could make in 10 years. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to work really hard. I am going to do a great job. And so they will extend my visa and we will never have to be poor again. But when I showed up to work, I was the only woman of color in a company of 2,000 engineers. And I looked around and I realized people had master's degrees, PhDs from Carnegie Mellon, MIT, Harvard, Princeton. And I immediately started undermining my capabilities. I thought, what would I know that they don't already know? My ideas will not matter. But I was stuck, so that was the second obstacle. But I was stuck between a rock and a hard place, Carrie, because within a year, if I didn't make myself difficult to be replaced, by law, they were required to hire someone with the right visa. And so I had to make myself difficult to replace. I had to create unique value that they couldn't find someone else to create easily. And so the fact that I had convinced myself that my ideas didn't matter, that created the narrative in my head, which made me afraid to speak up.
Yes.
Because I just figured if I had an idea, everyone else must know that already.
Yeah. And now with your new book, you have really aimed to change this for women to come. You have so many great pieces of advice.
And that's why I left my corporate role almost 10 years ago, Carrie, to really help others achieve success. Because I faced so many internal and external barriers, but there were people along the way that helped me, including my mom. Imagine, as a mom, now I know how difficult it would be to let your 15-year-old leave home and you don't even have a way to communicate with her. But she wanted me to pursue my dreams.
And I know that you are big on mentorship. You have worked with
Yes.
so many young women and created a school back in Tanzania to help the future generation. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to young women?
The one piece of advice I would give to young women is take a chance on yourself. The world takes you at your own estimate. When you undermine your capabilities and underestimate your worth, so will they. And that's why the title of the book is Show Your Worth. And it took me a while. As I told you, I started being afraid to speak up. And then I recognized my value, my worth. And then I learned how to show it so others would also recognize it. And that's what I'm teaching career professionals. And so my advice would be always take a chance on yourself, because the world takes you at your own estimate. If you don't take a chance on yourself, you can't expect anyone else to.
That is such great advice. Thank you, Shelmina, for joining us. Yes,
Thank you for having me,
you're very
Mary.
welcome. I want to remind people the book again is Show Your Worth, and we'll have more information on our website at ketu.com. And we'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.